Ladies and gentlemen, life itself is a risk. The very moment we take our first breath, we step into a world where nothing is guaranteed and everything carries uncertainty. Yet, it is precisely in this uncertainty that life gains its depth, meaning, and beauty. Every decision we make, big or small, carries risk. Waking up in the morning and stepping outside is a risk. Choosing a career path is a risk. Loving someone is a risk. Even staying in our comfort zone is a risk, because the world keeps moving whether we act or not. The question is not whether we face risks, but which risks we are willing to embrace. Think about it. People often wait for the right time to chase their dreams, forgetting that the perfect time never comes. The risk of failure is always there, but so is the possibility of success, growth, and transformation. The risk of rejection is always there, but so is the chance to connect, to love, and to build something extraordinary. Life punishes hesitation. Opportunities do not wait forever. When we avoid risk, we often risk something greater, the chance to become who we were meant to be. Playing it safe may protect us from failure, but it also protects us from victory. It may shield us from heartbreak, but it also shields us from love. History is filled with examples of those who embraced risk and changed the world. From inventors who risked ridicule, to leaders who risked their lives, to ordinary people who took a leap of faith. Progress is built on the courage to step into the unknown. But here's the truth: not all risks are reckless. Taking risks doesn't mean being careless. It means being brave enough to move forward despite uncertainty. It means weighing the cost of action against the cost of inaction, and choosing growth over fear. So, the real danger is not that life is risky. It's pretending that it isn't. The person who never risks anything risks everything, because the cost of avoiding risk is a life unlived. My friends, embrace the uncertainty. Take the leap. Say yes to opportunities even when fear whispers no. Love deeply, even when rejection is possible. Pursue your dreams, even when failure seems inevitable, because in the end, the greatest risk of all is to look back and realize you never really lived. Even doing nothing is a risk when most people hear the word risk. They think of dramatic actions, jumping out of an airplane, starting a business, confessing feelings to someone they love, or moving to a new country. These are visible, bold, and noticeable forms of risk-taking, but there is another kind of risk that is often invisible, overlooked, and yet far more dangerous: the risk of doing nothing. Many people live under the illusion that if they simply avoid taking action, avoid making bold decisions, and avoid stepping outside of their comfort zone, they will stay safe. On the surface, this makes sense. If I don't take the leap, I can't fall. If I don't speak up, I can't be criticized. If I don't try, I can't fail. But what people forget is this: life does not stop moving just because we decide to stand still. Time does not freeze to give us safety. By doing nothing, we are still making a choice, and that choice carries its own risks. Think about a stagnant pond. Water that doesn't flow eventually becomes polluted. In the same way, a life without risk, without growth, and without change becomes stagnant. It may feel safe in the short term, but over time it drains our energy, our creativity, and our potential. The price of inaction is often far heavier than the price of action. Let's take some real examples. A person might stay in a job they dislike because they fear the risk of failure in a new career. On the surface, it seems like the safe choice. After all, the job pays the bills. But what they don't realize is that by avoiding risk, they are silently risking their happiness, their fulfillment, and their mental health. 10 years later, they may look back with regret, realizing that the risk of staying where they were cost them far more than the risk of change ever would have. In relationships, the same principle applies. Many people avoid expressing their true feelings because they fear rejection. They choose silence instead of vulnerability, yet in doing so, they risk losing the chance to experience love, connection, and intimacy. The risk of rejection is real, but the risk of never trying is often far greater, because rejection stings for a moment, but regret can last a lifetime. Even in daily habits, doing nothing carries risks. Ignoring your health today may feel easy, but it risks serious consequences in the future. Avoiding difficult conversations may bring temporary peace, but it risks long-term resentment and broken trust. Refusing to chase your dreams may keep you safe from disappointment, but it risks leaving your life unfulfilled and ordinary. The truth is, safe is often not safe at all. It's just hidden danger. The comfort zone feels warm and protective, but it is also where dreams slowly die. The greatest thinkers, leaders, and innovators understood this. They knew that playing it safe was often riskier than trying and failing, because at least in failure, there is growth, knowledge, and the possibility of trying again. But in inaction, there is nothing, only loss. Here's the paradox. We think we avoid risk by doing nothing, but in reality, we are gambling with the most precious thing we have: time. Time wasted is never returned. Every day we choose inaction, we are taking the biggest gamble of all, because we are betting against our own future. So, the next time fear whispers, don't take the risk. Remember this, even standing still is a risk. You might not lose money, reputation, or effort, but you will lose opportunity, and opportunity is priceless. In the end, the risk of doing nothing is not that we might fail, it's that we might succeed at staying comfortable while our dreams, passions, and true potential slip away. That is a risk no one can afford to take. Every choice comes with uncertainty. Life is a series of choices, and with each choice comes risk. Some are small and almost invisible: what to wear, what to eat, or how to spend an hour of free time. Others are massive: choosing a career path, deciding who to marry, or where to live. But no matter how big or small the choice, one truth never changes: every decision carries uncertainty. We live in a world where people crave certainty. We want guarantees before we act. We want to know that if we take a leap, we will succeed. We want assurance that if we trust someone, they will never betray us. We want the comfort of knowing that our choices will always lead to happiness. But life does not work that way. Certainty is an illusion. Every path we choose could take us somewhere unexpected, and no matter how carefully we plan, we can never eliminate risk completely. Consider the simple act of choosing a career. You may spend years studying, training, and preparing for one profession. But when you enter the real world, you might discover that the job is not what you imagined. You may find that the market changes, technology advances, or new opportunities arise. The truth is, you can never be 100% sure how any career choice will unfold. But that does not mean you should freeze in fear. It means you must act boldly, knowing uncertainty is part of the journey. Relationships tell the same story. Choosing to trust someone is always a risk. You can never guarantee how another person will behave in the future. But if you let fear of uncertainty control you, you will never allow yourself to love deeply or build meaningful connections. Vulnerability is the price of intimacy. And yes, there is a risk of heartbreak, but there is also the chance of finding lasting joy, loyalty, and companionship. Even the smallest choices have ripple effects. Deciding to eat healthy today will influence your health tomorrow. Choosing to spend your free time reading instead of scrolling endlessly on social media will shape your knowledge and mindset. Every decision pushes us in one direction or another, and yet we often underestimate the power of these small risks. Over time, they shape the course of our lives just as much as the big decisions do. Now, many people try to escape uncertainty by avoiding decisions altogether. They wait for the perfect moment. They tell themselves, "I'll start when I'm ready." But the truth is, waiting does not remove uncertainty. It simply delays action. If you are waiting for a decision without risk, you will be waiting forever. Life never provides absolute clarity. The courage to act despite uncertainty is what separates those who grow from those who remain stuck. Here's an important truth: uncertainty is not always a curse. In fact, uncertainty is what makes life worth living. Imagine a world where everything was guaranteed, where outcomes were predictable, and where nothing could go wrong. At first, it might sound comforting, but in reality, it would be unbearably dull. There would be no thrill of possibility, no excitement of discovery, and no sense of achievement. We value success because failure is possible. We value love because heartbreak is possible. We value life itself because death is certain. Without uncertainty, there would be no meaning. Great leaders, inventors, and dreamers have always understood this. Thomas Edison, when inventing the light bulb, had no certainty of success. He only had thousands of failures that eventually led to breakthrough. Every entrepreneur who launches a business takes a leap without knowing what the outcome will be. Every person who moves to a new city or country takes a step into the unknown. Their courage comes not from knowing everything will work out, but from acting in spite of uncertainty. So the next time you face a choice, don't paralyze yourself waiting for guarantees. Don't fool yourself into believing you can escape risk. Instead, ask yourself, which risk is worth taking? Which uncertainty leads me closer to who I want to become? Because whether you choose to act or not, risk is already there. The real power lies in choosing risks that bring growth, adventure, and possibility. In the end, the truth is simple. Every choice carries uncertainty, but uncertainty is the birthplace of opportunity. Embrace it and you will find not just fear, but freedom. The biggest rewards come from the biggest risks. If you study the lives of successful people, dreamers, or history makers, you'll find one common truth. They were willing to take big risks. Behind every achievement, behind every breakthrough, and behind every inspiring story lies a moment when someone dared to step into the unknown. It's easy to admire the rewards, wealth, recognition, love, influence. But what most people don't see is the courage it took to get there. Nothing extraordinary is achieved by playing it safe. Safe choices might protect you from failure, but they also protect you from greatness. The truth is simple. The biggest rewards come from the biggest risks. Think about the Wright brothers. They risked ridicule, public doubt, and financial ruin in their quest to fly. People mocked them, calling their dream impossible. Yet, because they were willing to take the risk, they changed the course of history. Today, flight connects the world, but it began with two men daring to risk everything for a dream. Or consider entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. They invested time, energy, and money into ideas no one believed in at first. Jobs risked rejection when he introduced Apple products that seemed too unusual for their time. Musk risked bankruptcy multiple times while pushing forward with Tesla and SpaceX. These were not safe bets. Failure was a very real possibility. Yet the rewards they earned, not just in wealth but in impact, only came because they embraced enormous risks. Love, too, follows this principle. To open your heart to someone is risky. You risk rejection, betrayal, or disappointment. But when you choose to love deeply, the reward is profound connection, companionship, and joy. The risk of heartbreak is real, but without it, you can never experience the richness of true intimacy. Every great love story is written by people who risked vulnerability for the chance at something greater. This doesn't mean every risk leads to success. Many times, risks result in failure. But here's the difference. Those who take big risks at least put themselves in a position where success is possible. Those who never take risks remove the possibility of great rewards before they even begin. It's like never buying a ticket but expecting to win the lottery. Rewards come to those who are willing to step forward despite uncertainty. Big risks also bring personal growth. Even if you fail, you learn lessons that small, safe choices could never teach you. You gain resilience, creativity, and the ability to adapt. These qualities become the foundation for future success. In other words, the reward is not always in the outcome, it's in who you become through the process of risk-taking. And it's important to clarify something. Taking big risks does not mean being reckless. It doesn't mean jumping blindly without preparation. It means being willing to stake your effort, energy, and courage on something that matters. pushed beyond comfort. That is not safety, that is regret. On the other hand, even if you risk and fail, you'll look back with pride, knowing you had the courage to try. The reward of self-respect, growth, and experience is often greater than any material success. Every extraordinary story we admire today is proof of this principle. Behind every invention, every movement, and every personal success lies someone who asked themselves, "What if I fail?" and then chose to act anyway. The reward was never guaranteed, but it was possible, and possibility is worth the risk. So, the next time you face a decision that scares you, remember this: safety may give you comfort, but it rarely gives you greatness. The rewards you seek, success, love, fulfillment, impact, are waiting for you on the other side of risk. And while there is no guarantee you will succeed, there is one guarantee: if you don't try, you'll never know what could have been. Risk teaches us more than success ever could. When we think of risk, our minds often jump to two outcomes: success or failure. Naturally, most people want the first and fear the second. We admire the victories and avoid the setbacks. But here's the truth that many overlook. Failure often teaches us far more than success ever could. And the only way to encounter failure's lessons is through risk. Think back to your childhood. How did you learn to walk? You took a risk. You stood up, unsteady, and you fell. Again and again, you stumbled and toppled over, yet each fall taught your body balance, strength, and coordination. If you had avoided the risk of falling, you would never have learned to walk. The same principle applies to every part of life. We grow the most when we are willing to risk failure. Failure teaches resilience. When you take a risk and it doesn't work out, you're forced to pick yourself up, adjust, and try again. That process builds mental toughness in a way success never does. Success can make us comfortable, but failure makes us strong. It shows us that we can endure setbacks and still move forward. Without risk, we never discover just how much strength we truly have. Failure also teaches humility. Success can sometimes inflate our egos, making us believe we have all the answers. But failure humbles us. It reminds us that we are still learning, that growth is a lifelong process, and that there is always room to improve. Humility keeps us open to new ideas, mentors, and opportunities, and often that openness becomes the stepping stone to greater success down the line. Risk and failure are also the birthplace of creativity. When something doesn't work, we are forced to think differently, to innovate, and to find new solutions. Some of the world's greatest inventions were born out of failed attempts. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10 ways that won't work." Every failed experiment was not wasted. It was a lesson that eventually led to success. Without the willingness to risk failure, there would be no breakthroughs. Beyond skills and innovation, risk teaches us something even more important: courage. When you take a risk and fail, you prove to yourself that failure is survivable. Fear loses its power over you. You realize that while failure stings, it does not destroy you. That knowledge makes you bolder for the next challenge. You stop living in fear of what could go wrong and start focusing on what could go right. Now, compare that to someone who never takes risks. They may avoid failure, yes, but they also avoid the lessons failure teaches. They never develop resilience, humility, creativity, or courage. On the surface, they may look safe and stable, but inside, they remain untested and unprepared for life's inevitable challenges. Ironically, when something beyond their control eventually goes wrong, as it always does, they struggle far more than those who have been seasoned by risk and failure. This is why risk is so powerful. It not only opens the door to success, it trains you for life itself. Every time you risk and fail, you grow. Every time you stumble, you learn. And every time you try again, you become wiser, stronger, and more capable. We must stop seeing failure as the opposite of success. Failure is not the enemy of success, it is the path to success. It is the stepping stone that every great achiever has walked on. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who remain stuck is not that one never failed, it's that one kept risking despite the failures. So if you find yourself facing a decision and fear whispers, "What if I fail?" change the question. Ask yourself instead, "What could I learn?" Because even if the outcome isn't what you hoped for, the lesson will carry you further than success alone ever could. In the end, risk teaches us the most important truth of all, that failure is not fatal. It is feedback. It is a teacher. And it is the very force that shapes us into the people capable of handling the success we dream about. The greatest risk is not living at all. When we talk about risk, we often think of failure, loss, or danger. We worry about what could go wrong if we step outside of our comfort zones. But there is one risk that is greater than all others, a risk that is subtle, silent, and often invisible until it is too late. That risk is reaching the end of your life and realizing you never truly lived. The greatest risk is not failure. The greatest risk is not rejection. The greatest risk is not losing money, status, or reputation. The greatest risk is waking up one day and realizing you traded your dreams for safety, your passions for comfort, and your opportunities for fear. That is the risk of a wasted life, and it is far more dangerous than any temporary setback you could face along the way. Think about it. Life is short. None of us knows how much time we have, yet so many people live as if they have forever. They postpone their dreams. They say, "I'll do it when I'm ready. I'll start next year. I'll try when the timing is right." But here's the harsh truth. The right time never comes. There will always be fear. There will always be uncertainty, and there will always be reasons to wait. If you are waiting for life to feel safe, you are not waiting for safety. You are waiting for the end. Imagine someone who always wanted to travel, to see the world, but spent decades telling themselves, "Someday." By the time they finally go, their health no longer allows them to enjoy it. Or someone who always wanted to start a business but kept waiting for the perfect moment, only to retire with regret, realizing they never even tried. Or someone who loved deeply but never said the words because fear of rejection was stronger than the desire to connect. These stories are not rare. They are the reality of countless people who chose the illusion of safety over the adventure of living. The saddest words at the end of life are not "I failed." They are "I wish I had tried." Living fully means embracing risk. It means saying yes to opportunities, even when you are unsure of the outcome. It means telling people how you feel, even if they might not respond the way you hope. It means pursuing dreams that scare you, because the alternative, living with regret, is far scarier. Of course, living fully doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean chasing danger for its own sake. It means living with courage and intention. It means choosing growth over fear, meaning over comfort, and passion over regret. The risks may feel heavy in the moment, but they will never weigh as much as the burden of a life unlived. We often measure risk in terms of what we might lose, but what if we measured it in terms of what we might gain? What if, instead of asking, "What if I fail?" we asked, "What if I succeed? What if I grow? What if I create a life that inspires not only me, but others as well?" When we shift our perspective, we see that the real risk is not trying, not loving, not daring, and not living. Here's the ultimate truth. Time will pass whether you risk or not. Days will turn into months, months into years, and years into decades. The clock doesn't stop for hesitation. Every moment you let fear control your decisions is a moment of life you will never get back. So the question is not, should I take risks? The question is, what kind of risks am I willing to take to ensure my life has meaning? Because at the end of it all, the risk of rejection fades, the risk of failure teaches, the risk of loss heals, but the risk of not living at all leaves a permanent scar. In the end, the greatest tragedy is not death itself. It is dying without ever having lived. Ladies and gentlemen, life is not meant to be safe. It is meant to be lived. From the moment we are born, risk is woven into every step we take. Doing nothing is a risk. Every choice we make carries uncertainty. The biggest rewards always come from the boldest leaps. Failure, though painful, is the greatest teacher we will ever know. And the greatest risk of all is reaching the end of life and realizing we never truly lived. The truth is, risk is not the enemy, it is the companion of growth, success, and fulfillment. Without it, there is no love, no discovery, no progress, and no meaning. Risk is what gives life its color, its excitement, and its purpose. So I leave you with this challenge. Stop waiting for the perfect time, because it will never come. Stop letting fear dictate your choices, because fear only grows when we obey it. And stop pretending that safety is real, because the safest path often leads to the greatest regret. Dare to step forward, dare to take the leap, dare to risk failure, because failure will only shape you, never define you, and above all, dare to live, not half, logically, not cautiously, but fully, boldly, and unapologetically. Because in the end, it is not the risks we take that matter. It is the ones we never had the courage to embrace. Thank you